On April 16, 1789, George Washington left Mount Vernon in the promise of the morning light. And with a heavy heart he said goodbye, not only to the home of his childhood, but to the end of a peaceful retirement to a gallant and heroic military career. In his own words he said, "About 10 o'clock I bade adieu to Mount Vernon, to private life and to domestic felicity, and with a mind oppressed with more painful and anxious sensations than I have words to express, set out to New York in company with Mr. Thompson and Colonel Humphreys, with the best disposition to render service to my country in obedience to its call, but with less hope of answering its expectations." Washington knew he had a huge task before him. He was about to take the oath of office to the presidency of the United States. He understood that the responsibility of the success of the American experiment was being laid squarely on his shoulders. On April 23rd, Washington arrived in New York, currently the nation's capital. He was picked up in a stately barge erected to carry him into the city. He rode with various members of the House and Senate on the barge that was manned by 13 majestic rowing pilots. Once the barge was spotted, the president was received by a 13-gun salute, various dignitaries of the city, and crowds of well-wishers. 7 days later, Washington took the oath of office and became the first president of this nation. Since that day, 44 men have taken the oath of office. Now the oath is complemented with a grand parade afterwards, balls and galas of the late twilight hours, to honor and celebrate this great promise the president has made. But what is this oath that establishes a promise that is the cause of so much celebration in this country? In Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution, we read the oath that says, "I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of the Presidency of the United States, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution." The President promises on his honor and to the best of his ability to protect and defend the document that defends the basic morals, values, and principles that gives us fellow citizens the ability to call ourselves American. To be American, to have that ability to call ourselves American, has created feelings of stirring reverence in us for over 200 years. For over 200 years, we've had a framing document protected by the presidency that has allowed the flame of patriotism to burn in every home, town, city, and person. But what does it mean to be American? The Constitution says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity." Is that really the kind of people we are? Do we strive to be the kind of people that our founding fathers envisioned us to be? We know with certainty that our founding fathers were the ideal Americans. To the best of their ability, they protected and defended a document that's preserved American society. Our nation's history is rich with American heroes who have protected and defended the Constitution. Abraham Lincoln literally took up arms to keep the Union together under the Constitution, so that even in the deepest parts of the South, they still celebrate the 4th of July. Ronald Reagan told Mr. Gorbachev to tear down that wall that prevented the blessings of liberty to those citizens of East Berlin. You see, Reagan knew that basic American principles found in the Constitution were deserved by all of humanity, even if they were living beyond the protection of American borders. Presidents haven't been the only ones who have protected and defended the Constitution by eliminating opposing force. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus ride home because she knew she had the basic American right to sit where she wanted to sit. In the words of William F. Hazley, "There are no great men, only great challenges forced upon ordinary men by circumstances to meet." Sometimes those circumstances are a lot more sudden and terrorizing than we expect, and may call upon us to give the ultimate sacrifice. After the dust settled on 9/11, 411 emergency response personnel were dead. One scene that I will never forget from that day was that of seeing people running for their lives away from one of the lobbies of the World Trade Center. And then seeing firefighters run in the opposite direction towards the towers to save lives. You see, these men and women had no clue who these people were that they were going in after. But they knew that those people in the buildings were counting on them to do their duty to the best of their ability. It didn't matter if the people were American, Mexican, Japanese, or French. They had the right to life. Now, most of us won't ever have to run into a crumbling tower or vanquish a daunting enemy. But all of us have a responsibility to do our duty to the best of our abilities. So, what is it then? What do Americans do today that establishes our national identity? Is it really watching football all day on Thanksgiving? Or grabbing a burger in a rush to the mall? Or updating our statuses every 10 minutes? Let every one of our 924 friends know that we've stopped at a red light. When was the last time we were concerned about what it means to be American? When was the last time we were concerned about forming a more perfect union and securing the blessings of liberty? Or what about some simpler questions? When was the last time we attended a Memorial Day service to honor those men and women who have already paid with their lives for our right to go to the lake on Veterans Day? When was the last time we voted? According to a recent BBC News article and a study conducted by George Mason University, Iraqis have a higher voting average since their first election in 2005 than we Americans have had in the last 7 years. In the words of an old Indian fable, greatness never approaches he who is forever looking down. My fellow Americans, are we looking down? Or is it time that we became the people that our founding fathers envisioned, having so much potential? That potential is what allowed the American flag to stand at the bombardment of Fort McHenry. Today, we remember that flag with every rendition of our national anthem. That potential is what allowed Martin Luther King Jr. to have a dream, and soon other Americans had the same dream too. That potential is what John F. Kennedy saw when he said in 1961, we were going to put a man on the moon. Everyone laughed at him. And yet, 8 years later, Neil Armstrong planted an American flag into lunar soil. That potential literally made the sky no longer a limit to the capability of Americans accomplishing their duty. Whether we realize it or not, we have the same responsibility that George Washington had on the road from Mount Vernon. Our duty is as simple as the words of John F. Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. So go out and vote. Let your voice be heard. Take time to remember those rights and liberties that have already been paid for by the lives of our fellow Americans. It's the least we can do. It's time to be proud to be an American. And it's time to be a preserver, protector, and defender of our founding document, the Constitution.